Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jay from Sony Alpha Lab, and what I got here is the Sony A6500 mirrorless camera. It's the latest and greatest from Sony as far as the crop factor mirrorless cameras go, and the price tag is currently $13.98 US. So it's got a 24 megapixel crop factor sensor. It has a super high resolution 2.6 million dot OLED electronic viewfinder. It also has the 3-inch tilting touchscreen LCD on the back. That's right, it's a touchscreen now, so you can use it for touch to focus. It has internal UHD 4K video and S-Log3 Gamma for that wider dynamic range and higher quality. It also has 14-bit bit depth, which is better for, color banding. It's just more information with the raw file. It also has the ability to change the frame rate from 1 to 120 frames per second. You can adjust that. And one of the best features is the 5-axis steady shot that's now built into the camera. It also has built-in Wi-Fi and NFC. It has the 4D focus with 425 phase detection points, just like the A6300 had. It also has up to 11 frames per second shooting, and ISO 51200 is the max there. And another key feature of the A6500 is it has a huge buffer, which allows for up to 107 RAW files in one burst, or 301 JPEG frames. That's really impressive and a great feature for those sports shooters out there looking for the larger buffer, because that sucks when the buffer runs out and you'd have to sit there and wait while it copies to the memory card. So the camera is a little bit heavier than the previous model. It's actually about 16 ounces or 1 pound. So for reference, that's 2 ounces heavier than the A6300 and approximately 4 ounces heavier than the A6000. Alright guys, so at the end of the day, the A65 has 3 critical features that make it worth upgrading if you need those features. One of them is the 5-axis steady shot. That is huge. Another feature is the huge buffer. So if you're a sports shooter, that buffer is a really big deal, and that option right there is worth upgrading if you're a sports shooter, in my opinion. The other feature is the touch screen on the back, and it's basically touch to focus. So that is also a really nice feature. Not as critical, though, as the buffer or the 5-axis steady shot, in my opinion. Now, it's approximately $400 more than the A6300. That's a lot of money. And the focus performance is pretty much the same as far as, accuracy and hit rate and things like that go. So, $400, you get the touchscreen, the much larger buffer, and the 5-axis steady shot. Those are the 3 critical features that, in my opinion, make it worth considering upgrading. Whether you need those features or not, well, that's up to you. You have your on and off switch right here. So it's an on and off toggle. You just rock that, and that'll turn it on and off. Your shutter button is here. You press that for the shutter button. Then you have a control wheel here and another control wheel here. So if I turn this thing on, if you're in manual mode, for example, this will control the aperture up here, and then the shutter speed will be controlled by this knob. Alright, so that's how it works by default in manual mode. And your mode dial is right here, as you can see, and I have it on the M, which is manual mode. And then you have your custom program modes here, 1 and 2. Okay, you set up your settings how you want, and then you can just quickly go to 1 and or 2, and the settings will be ready to go for you. So you could set up 1 for sports mode and 1 for portrait mode or something, for example. Now this, you got movie mode, panoramic mode, another very cool feature, and scene mode. That's where you can select different types of scenes, like sunsets, things like that. You can go through. Portrait mode, full auto. This is great if you're new to the camera and you want the camera to decide what to do for you, and it works really, really well. It's a very smart auto mode. It analyzes the scene. It has scene recognition technology, so it will set the camera up based on its algorithms as to what needs to be set. So for portraits, it'll recognize it. It'll see a face and it'll say, oh, I'm taking a portrait. Or a landscape, it'll recognize it's a landscape. If you're shooting sports, it'll recognize that you're shooting high-speed subjects, and it'll switch to sports priority type modes. And it works really well. I've used it quite a bit, and I recommend it if you're new to the camera. If you want the most power, though, you're going to want to go to manual mode, of course. The S is shutter priority mode, the A is aperture priority mode, and P is program mode, which is similar to auto mode, except you can change a few features in P mode that you can't otherwise in full auto mode. Alright, so I'm just going to switch back to manual mode. You got your flash here. You can just hit this button and the flash will pop up. You have your hot shoe here. It just has a little cover on it right now. That cover pops off. So you just slide it right out like that. See that? Cover slides right off. So you can put flash units here. You can put microphones up here, things like that. Sony makes a bunch of different accessories for that. All right, so you also have this toggle here for auto exposure lock and autofocus / manual focus. So if you have it set to the top right here, basically when you hit this button, it'll put it in manual focus mode, and you can just then manually focus. When you let go, it'll go back to autofocus mode. And the same goes for auto exposure lock. If you hold this button, it'll lock the exposure. You could then recompose your scene, for example, and take the picture. When you let go, the auto exposure will automatically readjust. So if you have something really bright in your scene, for example, you can use this auto exposure lock to take advantage of that feature. Great feature, by the way. All right, so looking at the bottom of the camera, you got the tripod mount here. It's quite rugged due to the full magnesium alloy body now, so it's stiff. You don't notice much flex at all. And here you have the battery door. You have to actually slide that over to open it. It's actually the battery and the memory card door, and you can pop the memory card. It's a little bit hard to get out just because it's so small. And the memory card goes in like this. And just slide it down, it clicks in. The battery, you got this little blue button here. Sorry, it's hard to see with the lighting. The little blue thing, and that will trip the battery. The battery comes out, and you can see the writing goes that way, and it slides in, like so. You just gotta slide that over. And then on this side, you have the ports. So there's the ports on the side. And you got your USB port, and you have your HDMI port, and you also have an audio jack. Very nice. Great for video users. Now on this side of the camera, I just have the 16mm pancake lens mounted right now, but what I wanted to show you was this button here. There's a button right there. I'm trying to get the lighting so it's right. There we go. See this button right here? You press that button to release the lens, and then you can turn it like so, and it pops right off. Okay? So there's the sensor. You can see that. And what I wanted to show you was, notice how there's this white dot here? There's a white dot right there, and there's also a white dot on the lens. So if you look at the lens also has a white dot right there. All right, so you line the white dot up to the white dot, and then you could mount your lens really easily. Okay, so that's what those white dots are for. Just wanted to show you that quick. It's got a nice grip on here. You could see the grip. It's pretty deep, so you can hold it quite well. Alrighty, so I'm just going to turn this guy on here, like so. And I just wanted to go over the camera a little bit here. So what we're looking at now is the LCD display, of course. And if you hit this display button here, notice here it says DISP for display. You can actually change the way that the display looks. See that? And you can control what you're looking at here. So this one has the auto leveler there, so you can see, if your camera's level. I use that feature all the time. This one here shows all the different settings that are currently set on the camera, and you can just toggle through it. And this is the one I normally use. And you can see if you go around, it tells you if you have any picture effects on, what creative mode you're using. And I actually just touched the screen, and it thinks I want to touch to focus. That's what just happened there. So to cancel that, you can just hit this center button. Okay, and this is the metering mode. You have the battery life up top there, 47% it currently says. Then also over here it tells you your video mode, so you can see what I'm currently set to, 24p at 100 megabits per second and 4K. I'm currently set to JPEG mode, that's what that means, extra fine. So you can see there's all these settings, manual mode, etc. Alright, so let me just hit the menu button and show you what the menu looks like. Now, Sony decided to change the menu, so this is a completely different menu system from the A6300. They tried to categorize it a little better. They have like a video area, which is the 2, and then 1 for photography. So if you keep scrolling over to 2, you'll see it says movie 1 there. See that? So this is like prioritized for movie, and notice it's 1 of 9. So it's 1 of 9 pages. And if you just use this this wheel here and you just press it, those are the buttons to toggle through. So these are all your options here. Right here is the first page, so it's screen 1 of 14, and this is where you set your quality, right? I have my camera set to JPEG mode right now, so it says extra fine, and then image size is large. If I go in here, you can change that. If you want to save your memory card life, you can lower the resolution. And if you go to quality and click it, this is where you can select RAW plus JPEG or RAW, for example. Now, one thing I wanted to explain to you, if you're new to the Sony cameras, and my videos tend to be more for beginners, there's a lot of pros doing reviews now. So, you know, the pro perspective is out there. There's so many reviews from the pro perspective. So mine are more focused for beginners, somebody new to the camera, okay? So one thing I wanted to explain in particular is a lot of the features don't work if you're in raw quality, okay? See how when I switch to raw, how all that stuff grays out? Notice how picture effect is grayed out. See, I can't change that now? Some of these features I can change, but picture effect I cannot. All right, now let me go back to JPEG mode here, quality, extra fine. Now, if I go back, notice how picture effect is not grayed out anymore. Now I can change the picture effect. So basically what picture effect is it's applying like Photoshop style effects to the file, okay? So it's doing all this processing, and it's a really fun way to get more out of the camera. And I'll show you some sample photos of what they look like when you use these features. But I just wanted to make you aware that when you're using different features like this, if you're in raw quality, it won't work and it'll be grayed out. And you might wonder why, like, why can't I select this feature? It's because you're in raw quality versus JPEG quality. So that was the purpose of this little exercise here, okay? You can apply all these different features, skin softening the skin, you can do facial recognition, all sorts of stuff like that, which help, see here, face detection. I have that on, and if you look, it's the third one down. So when the camera sees a face, it'll automatically prioritize that and focus on it, okay? Very cool feature, and I recommend turning that on. Now for video here, if you go into video mode, you have a lot of different features for that as well. I have it set to 4K right now. You can see if you click it, those are your options. Menu will bring you back. And then record quality, these are all the different settings for North America. You may have different frame rates there. That's just because you're in a different territory where, you know, the PAL settings are the standard. Now here, S and Q settings, this is where you can change your frame rate to whatever you want. And that's a great feature, all right? So that's where that is. Dual video record, that's an option where you can turn that on, and you can basically record in multiple settings at the same time. It's great for processing purposes or production purposes if you need a lower quality version and a higher quality version. So I'm just gonna turn that off. So again, the menus are deep and there's a lot of settings in here. For video in particular, all these different features. Silent shooting mode, here's where that is. You can turn that on if you need it. Clear image zoom. This will get you extra zoom here. I have it turned on for clear image zoom. You could make that go to digital also. I wouldn't recommend digital. It'll get you more zoom, but the quality's not as good. Optical zoom only will just let you do what the lens is capable of. So I have clear image zoom on as well. And that's a cool feature. It gives you a little extra zoom if you want it. All right, now you have all these other features here. It just keeps going. Live view display. Now if you're shooting in a studio environment, you're going to want to change this live view display setting effect on. You're going to want to turn that to off. And the reason is you're using external light sources, like flash units, for example. So you're not going to want the screen to show you, you know, what's currently going on, because you're going to be in manual mode, and the off-camera flash units, the off-camera lighting, is what's going to provide your light. So that'll confuse the camera live view display. So you're going to have to turn that off if you're shooting in a studio environment, okay? That's a very important option. And if you try to do some studio work, you're going to be like, the screen is black, why I can't see anything. And that's because this is setting effect on. For example, if you're shooting in a studio, you're going to have your camera on manual, you'll have the shutter speed at 1/60th of a second, f4 let's say, but normally a studio is really dark. So the screen is going to look black in that environment unless you have this set to off. And then over here is your custom keys. Remember how I showed you got the custom 1 up here and the custom 2? Well, you can also program a lot of other stuff. Whoops, I just hit record by accident. So the record button is here, and you definitely can hit that by mistake with your thumb like I just did. So be cognizant of that. Watch where you put your thumb. You'll get the hang of it after a couple of minutes of practice. But because I'm twisting the camera around to show you all this stuff, I just hit it by mistake there. Function menu set. This is where you can control your function menu. Okay, so notice there's a button right here that says FN. If you click that, that's your function menu. And here are all your quick function menu options. And you can configure that in the menu here. function menu set. That's where you can control what's in that function menu, okay? And then if you keep scrolling, you could lock this dial here so it doesn't do anything. See that? Very powerful, this camera. It's got a lot of features, pro features. And then applications, that's where the applications are. I don't have any loaded on here right now. This is your wireless and Bluetooth settings, playback mode, and then in here you can change your monitor brightness and a bunch of other features. This is the toolbox or setup. Monitor brightness is a cool feature to check out because you can change the brightness. Like if you're in super bright sunny conditions, you can make this much brighter. See this sunny weather option? You turn that on, it's going to use more battery life, but it'll allow you to see the screen in really bright conditions. And again, that's just a great feature to have, and you might not be aware that it's there. So just wanted to let you know of that. Gamma display assist, that's off right now. You can turn that on. It's great for video to see what kind of exposure you're looking at and see if you're going to clip the highlights, for example. You don't want to blow the highlights out. They're harder to recover a lot of times. And again, you can change your camera to the old style menu system. See this tile menu? It's set to off. You can change that. Mode dial guide, if you're a beginner, you can turn that on. And when you switch your mode dial, which is the dial up top I talked about earlier, it'll actually display it as you turn it. It'll display on the screen which dial, and it'll kind of explain what it's doing. That's off by default, but you can turn that on. Deletion, all these different options. They're self-explanatory for the most part. Touch operation, different touch features for the screen. Remote control, if you're using a remote control to trip the camera shutter, you're going to have to turn this feature on. It has a infrared receiver on the front that will turn on and off here, and that'll probably cost you a little battery life. That's why it's set to off by default. So that's a cool feature, and that's where it is if you need to turn it on. USB power supply, that allows you to basically plug a power supply into the USB port here, and the camera will use that as a battery. If you want to do extended recording, for example, that's a great feature because the battery life on this camera is not really that great. You can only get approximately 400 shots on one battery and about an hour worth of video from my testing. Format, here's where you format the memory card, and just a couple of other options here. Setting reset, you can go here to put the camera back to factory default, and we're back to 1. All right, so that's pretty much a quick overview of the camera body, and I just wanted to make you aware of that. All right, guys, so I just wanted to show you when you hit this function button here, notice here how there's a drive mode option, okay? If you click that and you scroll down, this is for the high-speed shooting, and notice how it's grayed out. See how this feature right here is grayed out? All right, that's because if you look, I'm actually in HDR mode. You can see over here I'm in HDR mode, auto HDR. So let me go to menu and let me change that. And it's on screen 11 in camera 1 mode, okay? So notice here you have DRO/auto HDR option. Right now I have it set for auto HDR. You can see right here, that's what it's set to. So I'm just gonna scroll up and turn that off, okay? Now if I hit the function menu and I go to drive mode, now I can select a continuous shooting, and you have low, high, plus, which is maximum 11 frames per second, high, and medium. I had the best hit rate with medium and high. High plus, my hit rate was not as good, just to let you know. That was with real world user experience using the 70-200 FE GM lens, and like I said, I had better luck when I had it on high and medium. My hit rate was much better than high plus, just to let you know. Real world experience, alright? Alright guys, I just wanted to show you how quick the focus is on this camera and lens combo. So I have it set to f2.8. I'm using center focus point, center focus mode. You can see over here on the left, that's the center focus mode. And I'm just going from the train to the background. You can see it works quite good. I got a camera over here. Alrighty. Alright guys, so I'm just going to track the train here, and I just wanted to show you how I'm going to set the camera up. So this is going to be a moving subject. So I'm going to go to my function menu. I'm going to go to focus mode, and I'm going to change it to continuous. Alright, because this is going to be a moving subject. Now I'm also going to use center focus area. I could use a flexible spot area if I wanted to, but I'm just going to try center focus and see how that works first. Alright. And if I want to take pictures, I have it set to medium drive speed. See that? So it'll take photos pretty quick. So let's see how this works, all right? Let's start the train. All right. Looks like it's doing a really good job. Train's coming closer and closer and closer. It's a 200 millimeter also. It's done a really good job. Yeah, it switches right back. Look at that. It's working good. Snappy. Oh, it's picking it up in the back. Alright, so as you can see, this is working extremely good. Take a few photos. Notice the focus switches right back. And then the train's going to be coming through here again. Here it comes. And look at that. It's locked right back on. Yeah, that's impressive. That works really well. So as you can see, the tracking is quite good on the Sony A6500 on this lab train scene. And it's a really small train, you know, so the depth of field is super narrow. And, you know, that's just impressive. That's impressive to be able to track at that depth of field at minimum focus distance as well, pretty much, when the train's coming by. So, very impressive stuff, guys, in my opinion. Hey buddies, alright, so here we are in Lightroom, and I just wanted to go over some of the Sony A6500 sample photos that I took. I took a lot because the action photos in particular were plentiful. But anyway, I just wanted to show you what this camera can do in the real world, so I'm going over my real world photos first. I'm just going to click on that category. And here's just a shot. I was using the 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 GM lens. That lens is incredible, and it works really good on the Sony A6500 in my opinion. It's an FE lens, so it's designed for full frame as well, of course, but I wanted to use it to test out sporting in particular and also get the extra reach thanks to the crop factor. So I just wanted to show you some sample photos, and you can just see how sharp and detailed this is. By the way, I just hit Shift Tab in order to get rid of all the tabs at once. So Shift plus Tab, and it gives you like this kind of sort of full screen mode. And if you look at the top left up here, that's the camera and lens information. So you can see the ISO, shutter speed, etc. So I don't have to say it every time. You can just look up there for reference, okay? This is just an out of focus shot. I just wanted to test the bokeh of the lens quick. So this is actually at 400 millimeter. I was using the 2x teleconverter, and the reach was incredible. Sharpness a little bit soft here at f5.6. This isn't a lens review though, this is a camera review, so more focusing on the colors and stuff and the clarity and the focusability, you know. So this is at f8, and you can see it sharpens up quite a bit. The dynamic range is pretty good on the Sony A6500. My previous camera review was the Sony RX1R2, and that dynamic range was noticeably better. So that's full frame, top quality sensor here. This sensor is also very good, but doesn't have the same dynamic range as the full frame Sony sensors. Okay, so here's another shot here in the morning sun, just giving you just a variety of photos. These are nothing special. These are just real world sample photos, so you can get an idea of what the camera's capable of doing. Now this one here, I just wanted to show you. Let me just hit Shift Tab to bring the tabs back. Now here is just the raw file. These are raw quality, and here's an edited raw. So I just wanted to show you how much information I can bring back. So here's the original, and here's the edited. So you could see I brought the detail back on the flag and so forth. So the dynamic range is quite good. If I go to the develop panel here, you can see what I did. I dragged the highlights all the way down, brought the shadows up, jacked up the clarity, and you can see what the clarity does. It just does that. And I also dragged the vibrance up just to give you an idea of what I did. So here's a fence image, and I was just shooting through a fence to get that layering depth of field effect. And this is an edited version just to make it black and white. Here's another angle. And here's an edited version just to show you the high contrast punch and detail that this camera is capable of. So I'm just giving you an idea of what this camera is capable of. Low light situations here. Now this is the basher kill. I went down there. This is a raw file. I think I jacked up the vibrance a little bit on this. Yeah, you could see here the vibrance. I just raised the vibrance. But other than that, this is a raw file. I didn't do anything but add a little vibrance to it. All right, and you can see the color and dynamic range is quite good. You can see the blend of colors as it goes up. It gets darker and darker blue. There's no banding in there. The bit depth is very good. Color accuracy is also very good. I had a really good time using this camera. Oh, we went to the ski slopes. Here's a couple of shots from the ski slopes. I have an action category that I'm going to go over in a second. These are just a few snapshots from the ski slope. This is Layla right here with the yellow helmet on. This is just some dude that was watching his kids, I assume, and they had some racing going on there. Here's just another kid hanging out. Here's another one. You can see the camera is doing a great job paired up with that lens, the FE 70 to 200 millimeter, and I actually had the 2x teleconverter on there as well, so this is at almost 400 millimeter, and the focus is quite good. It worked really well. Let me just zoom in here so you can see some of the detail. You can see it's excellent. Oh, I was just taking a couple of snapshots, and this sign was just covered with dirt and stuff, so I figured I would take a picture of it. And you could see just the incredible clarity. This is at 92 millimeter, and it's super sharp. f4.5. And this is a new casino going in. I just took a couple of pictures because it offered a nice wide dynamic range and a lot of detail to, illustrate, the clarity. And it's always cool looking at a reflection. I always enjoy that. These guys were working on, putting the glass panels in, and you could see right up here the glass panel is actually hanging from the crane. And you could see the workmen here. They're doing a really good job, it looks like to me. Here's just a picture of my car. I know it's disgustingly dirty. It's actually the diesel Volkswagen model, so they're buying the car back. I don't know if you heard about that scandal with the diesel. This was a cool image because you could see the depth of field fall off and, just that 3D pop you can get. And this is a crop factor sensor, so of course with the full frame you're going to get a little bit more of that, but it still is quite good with the crop factor. And now I have the 2x extender on the lens, so now I'm looking at 400 millimeter, and you can see now they're mounting the glass panel, and you can see it's not quite as sharp at f5.6. You do lose a little bit with that teleconverter, there's no doubt about it. Couple of more. Now here's digital zoom. I actually zoomed in with digital zoom here, so now this is a pretty much 800 millimeter effective, but it's not, basically it's just photoshopping and enlarging the photo, so you can see there's a little bit of artifacts there from the enlargement process. But clear image zoom works really well overall. As you can see when I zoom out, it looks really crisp and sharp. So that clear image zoom is a great feature. I wouldn't recommend going over the clear image zoom into the digital zoom zone because that noticeably degrades. All right, here's a few more detail images. Just some old signs which I love to shoot, and you can see the incredible clarity that you get from there. And I can show you these are raw files. Oh no, this is a JPEG. I'm sorry. I thought I was shooting raw here. Yeah, these are all JPEGs, so the editing latitude is going to be less. Let me just show you how I can edit this a little bit though. Even though it's a JPEG, I can pull the highlights back. See that? Now raw, I would be able to get more information. You could see it's clipped right here on the top right, but I'm shooting JPEG, so that information is lost. But I can still pull it back quite a bit, as you can see. If I drag the blacks down, get a little more clarity there, and I could drag the vibrance up. I could also drag the clarity up, see that, get a little more punch. So you can edit your JPEG files quite a bit and get noticeably better results just by playing around. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that in case you weren't. So RAW and JPEG you can edit in Lightroom. Here's one of Jace. Now this is another JPEG photo. I just wanted to show you some of the detail. You can see it's quite good on the eyebrows. It missed the actual eyeball, but it focused on the eyebrows, and you can see depth of field is extremely narrow. You can see some of the, characteristics here in the sweatshirt. Tons of detail. Just some playing around. Here's Jace on the deck going, "Arr!" He loves to do that. Here's just another image of the Dino trucks. I think this guy's name is Rex. There's Bones Jones shooting through the fence. And here's one of the fence. This is just a cup on the deck. And these are JPEGs. And I focused on the brush here, and you can see just the incredible clarity, dynamic range that you get with the specular highlights here on the all these little balls from the tip of the brush. There's another one of Jace. Just zoom in on this one so you can see the eyelashes and stuff. This one, the focus was a little bit more accurate on the eye. And the facial recognition technology works really well. That's what I was using for these. A couple more. There's another one of Layla. And this is just an out of focus, completely out of focus shot. So you can see what that, how buttery it looks. It's incredible. And here it is more in focus. I just focused on the edge of the table here. Now I just wanted to do a aperture run so you can see what kind of depth of field you can get with this camera and lens combo, okay? So this is at f2.8, that's f4, that's f5.6, that's f8, that's f11, that's f16, and here's zoomed in a 200 millimeter at f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, f11, f16, f22. All right, here's one of Bones Jones. He was sitting to my right when I was taking those photos you just saw, and I just want to zoom in here so you can see the detail. It's absolutely remarkable. This is one of the best lenses I've ever used. This is just as good as the Canon 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8L lens, for sure, in my opinion. I have extensive use with that lens. Version 1, mind you. I never used version 2. But this is definitely just as good. This one I edited. Here's the original, and here's the edited version. Let me just zoom in so you can see some detail there. So when you edit it, you can see you can get some unbelievable detail, contrast, punch, and vibrance. Remarkable. Very impressive results, in my opinion. So that's pretty much it for the real world. I have a lot more photos, but this will take forever if I keep going over photos. So I just wanted to move on to the action shots, show you how the autofocus performance is on this camera and lens combination in particular. So we were at the slopes here, and this kid's coming towards me. So let me just zoom in so you can see the sharpness. And you can see it's very good. Hit rate was excellent in this particular case. The hit rate was not as good in some of the other shots that I took. Let's see, this one here is also very good. And I'll just show you the shots quick. You could see he was zooming and he went behind people, and the camera still managed to track. It did an excellent job. And now here's one of Layla. Now this is Layla coming down the slopes, and I am using the 2x teleconverter as well. So this is 400 millimeter, and you can see I'm in the fastest shooting mode, and you can see it's tracking quite well. I could zoom in here and show you some of the detail. They're all not tack sharp though. This one here I have starred, so it's very sharp, but I think this one, it gets just a little bit soft. You can see here on the lift tag in particular. So the tracking wasn't 100% at the highest frame rate. I did lower the frame rate. You could see it's back. Here's another sharp one. So it keeps up pretty well. Don't get me wrong. Like, it does a good job, but it's not 100% hit rate, at least with the 2x teleconverter in this test. So this was at the maximum 11 frames per second. And you can see just the sharpness. And she's coming towards me, and very far away too. So this is really good results. So I'm just going to go through here. And pretty much I'd say 75-80% of these are sharp. All right. So a few of them here and there are just slightly soft, but most of them are sharp, as you can see here. And she's just coming, panning across. I had to zoom out a little bit. Now I'm at 300 millimeter approximately. And you can see this one here is slightly blurry. This one here is back to tack sharp. And you can pretty much tell when the sharpness is off. But for the most part, the camera did a great job. Like I said, a couple of them are a little soft here and there. But overall sharpness is very, very good. Like this one here, you can see is a little bit soft, but the one before it is sharp. Here's a couple more. She's doing excellent. You can see she's looking at me here. Let me just zoom in on this one. You can see the sharpness isn't 100%. It's very good though. It's acceptably sharp. It's not quite 100% sharp, like tack sharp, you know what I mean? This one again, this one's very sharp, but it's not 100% tack sharp. So you can see the hit rate is quite good, but it's not 100% in this test using the 2x teleconverter and having it at the fastest 11 frames per second. What I learned was lowering the frames per second a little bit to just high or medium. I had a much better hit rate. For example, here, every single shot is sharp. I went through all these at 100% and they're all sharp. And these trucks were coming at me at, 60 miles an hour or whatever. And you can see scrolling towards me. This is at 400 millimeters, so that's using the teleconverter again, f5.6, and every one of these shots is sharp. I went through all of them to make sure that they're all sharp. I'll just zoom in on this one here so you can see. And you can see the sharpness is really good. It's not like super tack sharp, but that's the lens at f5.6 with the teleconverter. You do lose a little bit of sharpness there. Here's another one. This truck's starting to pull ahead, and you can see how good it is. It's excellent. That one in the background's a little bit softer because I was actually focusing on this one. Here's another truck, Peterbilt. I'll just zoom in here so you can see the detail. And you can see this one came out exceptionally sharp. This is at f4. I actually took the teleconverter off, so now I'm just using the 70 to 200 millimeter lens, and the sharpness is notably better. Granted, it's at f4, not f2.8, but still very good. And again, every one of these frames is sharp. This truck's doing probably 60, 70 mile an hour. It's coming up a hill, so maybe 50 mile an hour. Fast, fast, coming right towards me as I'm standing on the overpass above the truck. So I'll just zoom through here, and these are all sharp. I verified them. Now here's a truck going away from me. Let me just zoom in here so you can see the detail. And you can see the tail light there, really, really sharp. And then again, I checked all of these photos. They're all sharp. Tracked the truck the entire time. I was just using center point focus, just so you know. And I have an autofocus video just specifically going over the different autofocus modes and how to use them. So be sure to check that out. I'm not going to go into great detail in this video on that, but I have another one dedicated just for that. So, all right, so that's the action shots. As you can see, it did a really good job in my opinion. There's a lot of other reviews on YouTube showing sports and things like that. So, be sure to check those out as well if that, it's more towards what you plan on using it for. But I tried to do the best I could with the content I had available to me. So this particular frame, I'm in the high ISO category now. I just wanted to show you, this is ISO 51000, okay? And you can see it's quite noisy, but the detail is still there somewhat, You can still tell what the picture is. When you're zoomed out, it doesn't look too bad, but it's not as good as, say the RX1R2, which I recently reviewed, the full frame. Full frame's obviously better, but this is quite good. And you can see here, at 25,000, the noise is way less, okay? And here is 12,800. Here is 6,400. By default, auto ISO is set to the low of 100 and a high of 6,400, and that's how I have the camera set. So when I was using auto ISO, it didn't go higher than 6,400, and you can customize that in the menu very easily when you go to the ISO setting. And here is 800. You can see there's pretty much no noise. Once you get to like 800, it's next to nothing. And this is a RAW file. 400 here, it's even smoother. All right, I only did 400. So here is 400 RAW file, unedited, and this one I just enhanced a little bit to show you some of the range you can get. And you see over here on the right, you could see all the sliders, what I did. I brought the highlights down, to get some of that detail back, and comparing it to the original, you can see this is really blown out over here. It's still blown out in this photo, but not as bad. A lot of the detail came back. All right, so going into the lab here, I did a little bit of lab testing just to show you some depth of field play and things like that. And you can see here, focusing on the train versus the background. That's what you can expect. And here's a couple of detail shots. Here's a couple more. That's 140 millimeter, f5.6, f8. There's a couple of coin images zoomed in. One of the coins fell off. I gotta glue it back on. And here's a couple more, just showing you some of the depth of field and things like that. Another aperture run. And you can see the color and clarity is quite good. So lastly, I just wanted to go over some of the picture effects, which I showed earlier in the menu. You got to be in JPEG mode in order to use these. But this is the illustration mode, which is one of my favorites. Let me just go larger screen here. There's Jace. And you can see just how the artistic effect is really cool. One of my favorite features of the camera as far as, you know, Photoshop type things. Here's the railing, so you can see the wood grain. And it's just a coffee cup. And again, look at that cool pattern and artistic effect it applies. Love that feature. And here's that dyno truck that I showed you earlier. And you could see it looks like it turned it into a painting or something. This is the posterization effect. That's what you can expect. Pretty cool effect if you're looking for something different. This is selective color, and you can choose your color. In this case, I chose red, then I chose blue, then I chose yellow, then I chose green. And this is high contrast black and white, and I love this one. This filter is great. It does a really good job. It creates so much punch and pop. You could see this cup, it almost looks 3D, and it's a really nice filter. If you want some nice punchy contrast black and whites, highly recommend trying that mode. Like I said, it's high contrast black and white, and again with this lens you could just see that buttery bokeh is awesome. Great detail in the little fire pit there. And this is just a Z scene, various focal lengths. Oh, here's auto HDR. This is just a regular snapshot, and here's the auto HDR. So you could see how much better that does. So auto HDR is an awesome feature. It takes multiple frames and then combines them, aligns them, and then gives you this result. And here's what just a regular snapshot would look like. So it gives you both. It gives you the original frame, and then it gives you the auto HDR version. So you can see exactly what it did, and you can see it does a great job. I love this feature. Use it quite often in, you know, high dynamic range environments. All right. So that is pretty much it for the lab photos, guys. So let me just show you some sample video, and then we will wrap up with the conclusion. Oh, there's my buddy. You playing blocks? What do you got? Something on your hands?
Nail.
Oh, your nail? Want to build a tower? You want to build a tower, Jace?
Yeah.
No. What are you doing? You're chewing on your nail?
Yeah.
Okay, steady. Good job.
Okay, steady.
Steady. Very good, Jace. Very good. No, don't pick your nose. Oh, nasty. Let me get you a tissue. Hey, Bones.
Wait.
He doesn't like being recorded.
No.
You need to brush your teeth, Bonesy. Aw,
Oh.
that nose. Beast. Are you getting frustrated, Jace? Are you getting frustrated?
Oh.
Easy.
What's that?
That's delicious chicken, Jace. That's delicious chicken. Don't touch though, because it's hot. All right, so I'm gonna try to shred this. Like I said, guys, I have no idea what I'm doing, but how hard could this be? I'll just shred this a little bit. I'm just using 2 forks, like so.
What?
I'm shredding the chicken, Jace. It just falls apart, so I'm just basically holding it with one fork and, you know, pulling it apart with the other.
Daddy?
It's not rocket science. I'm just gonna let it simmer for probably another hour or so now that it's shredded on low. And then I think I might put it on some tacos. Oh! Give me some tacos. Give me some tacos. Shredded cheese. All right, so here is the taco. You guys ready to watch me eat this? Oh my goodness, it looks so good. Look at this. Ready? Ah. Oh! 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 I can't even explain it. Oh! The depth of flavors is so deep. Phenomenal. Oh, the crispy shell, the sour cream, the lettuce, oh, the chicken. Unbelievable. Alright guys, I hope you like this little taco video. I'll catch up with you later, buddies. Oh, I'm gonna take another bite. There's no way to control yourself when you eat something like this. You just gotta get in there. Alright, buddy, I'll get you more water. One sec. I gotta get my buddy Jace more water, but God, this taco's good. Oh! Alright, I'm just gonna shove the rest of it in. Well, how much is on my plate? Unbelievable. Alright, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch up with you later. And I can't even tell you how good that is. I'm gonna have like 5 more probably. Alright guys, I was just having a little fun there. And I really hope you got what you were looking for in this video review. And as you can clearly see, based on my testing and my real world experience, the Sony A6500 is an awesome camera. It just is. And you know, it doesn't mean you necessarily need it, because the A6300 is also awesome. It just doesn't have quite as many features. The A6000 is probably the best bang for the buck camera available today, and but you know, every generation it gets better, and you know, mirrorless is caught up. I mean, you can take action photos with this mirrorless camera and the FE 70 to 200mm GM lens and get phenomenal focus tracking results. And the focus tracking during video is also quite good, as you saw when I was using my camera slider. So at the end of the day, 1300 $298. Not exactly cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but you do get a very high quality mirrorless camera. It's well built. The features are extremely rich and pro-oriented, as you saw in the menu system, and the image quality results are excellent as well at the end of the day, as you can see in Lightroom. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. And again, there's many other reviews of this camera on YouTube and whatnot, so be sure to check those out as well for, different aspects that I didn't quite cover. And, that's pretty much it, guys. So again, I really hope you got what you were looking for, and please have a wonderful day. All right, take care.